It was such a disappointment. Of all the great things that did happen on this night, this was so disappointing. And such typical WWE current modern TV booking. It was just awful.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Hey yo, and what's up, gang? Welcome back to the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show right here on Sledgehammer TV. My name is Nick Nightmare, and well, here comes the pain as SummerSlam Night 2 ends in a tremendous fashion. It was a much better show than night number 1. We have a new world champion in Cody Rhodes, reclaiming his belt back from John Cena in a fantastic babyface versus babyface, clearly out of respect matchup, a street fight for the ages, all overshadowed by the return of the Beast incarnate, which nobody saw coming. Nobody was talking about Brock Lesnar leading up into SummerSlam. If you were talking about him, you definitely weren't talking about him being at SummerSlam. If you're saying so, you're a liar, because there is no way anybody anywhere could have seen this coming. It was a tremendous finish to night number 2. It saved what was overall a mid SummerSlam for the most part. Night 2 had a couple of really good matches, but there are really 2 huge missteps on this night. 2 huge missteps, and I want to get into those before we get into anything else. Because yeah, we got the feel-good moment of Cody Rhodes. We got the shock and awe of Brock Lesnar. But we also got a steel cage match that was the equivalent of a silent fart. That was the one match of the night that I was looking the most forward to. Don't ask me why, but I thought this was going to be something special, something tremendous. Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa in a steel cage. You got 2 of the roughest, toughest, wildest Samoans we've had on the roster in a long time. You got a deep-rooted family blood feud story going on, brewing underneath. And what do? You book a steel cage match for the biggest show of the summer. Fantastic. I was all in. I was ready to go. And what did we get? We got a very basic singles match within the confines of a steel cage. You barely use the cage at all within the match. And the only thing this did is what Triple H and everybody loves to do when they have a match with a Bloodline member or a Samoan family member. It just becomes everybody fucking run in and ruin everything. Isn't the purpose of a steel cage to keep everybody out? I say this all the time. The WWE doesn't even know how to use the toys that they play with. At least not in an effective manner. You booked a steel cage match to beat Jacob Fatu. Now, he didn't even get to win this matchup. He definitely should have. I don't understand the logic. This story is boring. The story's going nowhere. And Jacob should have won and ended this whole thing and moved himself away from Solo and all his clowns. But no, instead the clown show comes out, they get involved in the matchup, and then we get Big Jim. Big Jim comes out to make the save, and that's why you're expecting something special to come out. Maybe the Tribal Chief's going to come out and make the save and be on Jacob Fatu's side. Maybe Jey Uso's going to reunite with Jimmy like he did in the dark match on SmackDown the night before. Maybe something's going to happen. But no, nothing happens. Solo Sikoa wins by falling out of the cage because Jacob Fatu, now this is the key, listen to this. Jacob Fatu gets hit in the head by a steel cage door swung by the tallest Tonga ever, Talatanga. Jacob Fatu, I'm going to repeat it. Jacob Fatu gets hit in the head. His strongest part of his body, a part of his body that we have seen him take multiple shots and then just shake off. You can't headbutt a Samoan. You can't injure a Samoan in the head, especially a Samoan like Jacob Fatu, who uses his head as a primary weapon. But this chair shot knocks him unconscious enough for Solo to fall out like a dead fish. This is what you booked this cage match for? Or is it so that after the match is over and Jacob lost already, you could try to make him regain his momentum by making him do a moonsault off the top of a cage? Which little JC son, whatever his fucking name is, JC Mateo, almost totally botched that. He completely fucking missed catching the guy. He just got his arm out on him, and the human botch machine Tangaloa was left taking the brunt of everything. It was such a disappointment. Of all the great things that did happen on this night, this was so disappointing. And such typical WWE current modern TV bullshit booking. It was just awful. There was no need to book this cage match if you were just going to give us the same finish we get every time you put any two members of the Samoan dynasty in a match opposite each other. It's every fucking time, and I didn't appreciate it in this instance. Jacob Fatu should have went over. He should have won decisively. There was no blood. There was no viciousness. There was no weapons. I know there was a lot of that throughout the night in many other matches, which is why these matchups should have been spread out more evenly throughout the two nights if you're going to do an unnecessary two-night SummerSlam. You had all the regular matches on one night, and then you have all the super special matches on the other night, so now you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. But when you got two Samoans in a steel cage, don't you think it should have ended with maybe a little bit of color? At the very least, a little bit of blood, a little bit of violence or viciousness? No. Instead, we get a half-dead Solo Sikoa falling out of the ring like a pile of garbage, and that's how he wins this match. Terrible. I didn't enjoy it at all. The other real big issue that I had with this show isn't so much in the quality of the match, but with just how long it was and how extremely overbooked it seemingly was. You got a street fight closing the show. You got a TLC match on this show. You got a steel cage match like we just talked about on this show. So the no disqualification match between Becky and Lyra was not needed on this night. It definitely was not necessary, I think, to be a no DQ match. And I think it actually hurt the match because they went a little bit too far with everything. They started pulling out chairs and fire extinguishers, and Becky pulled out a toolbox. She tied Lyra Valkyria's hands together with a zip tie, and then there was some kind of a mistiming or a miscommunication with that because it wasn't working, or it worked too much and she couldn't get it off. I couldn't really tell. It was hard to really see anything in those special matches that's going on when you're there live. That's one of the other complaints I have about like the TLC match too. There's so much going on and it's hard to follow when you're sitting in the crowd. Even though they got the big screens and stuff around, you don't have the commentary in your ear. You don't really know what's going on in and around the ring unless you're able to see it, and it's very hard to be able to see from the mid-bowl. Even though they were decent seats, we weren't all the way in the upper deck on top or anything, but it's just hard to see everything that's going on, and that was a big problem with this match as well. And this match, being there live, I could tell you they lost the crowd really early in this match. I don't know why. The match wasn't bad. I just think that it was long and draggy. And I guess the people at MetLife were more interested in doing the wave, because that's what was going on there while this match was going on. And I was paying attention as best I could, but I couldn't help but get swept up in the fun of the crowd participation of doing the wave, because you're going to be the only jerk sitting down while the whole rest of the... Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I know it's a little disrespectful to the performers to do that, but they didn't engage us. There was nothing about this match that really got anybody going. It's not that they weren't trying. They definitely tried. People started to pay a little bit more attention when Bayley came out, but that ruined the whole thing for me. I thought this was going to be a straight one-on-one, put Lyra over, and move forward. But they don't want to do that. They want to keep going back to the stable, back to what they already know, back to what's comfortable, back to the established. They're afraid to push new stars and make anybody new. So we're going to rely on Becky Lynch to make the IC title something special. Lyra should have won last night. She should have won by beating the snot out of Becky, and there should have been no Bayley involvement at all. And of course, the TLC match was outstanding, right? We had all the basic spots that you would expect to see in a TLC match, but there were a few things I didn't enjoy about this match. One is the way that you could clearly tell that these guys on today's roster in the tag team division don't get as many reps as they used to. And there was a lot of really key spots that were kind of botched and or missed, and that just comes from not getting enough practice. The Hardys were in attendance, which was nice to see. The Dudleys were also in attendance. They were actually promoting their final TLC match, which is going to be at TNA's Bound for Glory. Nice to see the WWE giving some favors back after shitting all over TNA for so long. But my biggest problems with this match was, one, the time they decided to book it. Whoever decided to put this match up early in the card to the point where the sun wouldn't be down so that the fans can enjoy the entrance of the Wyatt Six the way it's supposed to be enjoyed. We couldn't do the whole light up your phones thing. It just felt weird to see the Wyatts in broad daylight. And then to further sully the TLC match, it didn't really live up to expectations, in my opinion. And that's not because of all of the repetitive type of spots or the quality of the match, which was actually quite good. Even the girls got involved. It was really good to see. Candice LeRae took a really dangerous bump off the top of the ladder to the outside of the cage, to which it looked like she was dead. Some really, really good stuff. But to have the finish be the Wyatts winning by having all of the Wyatts involved in the finish just felt a little off-putting to me. Not that they should have changed the titles, which maybe they should have, because the crowd booed when the Wyatts won, because I just don't think the presentation of the Wyatts really is going very well at all. Once Bo Dallas went down with his injury and they took the Wyatts off TV, it lost all momentum, and they've never quite come back the same again. And then to have all of their matches, much like we said in the Samoan situation, have the same type of finish, where it's all the Wyatts get involved, or Howdy distracts the opponent, or Nikki Cross is there to do some shit. It's always the same stuff, and the Wyatts end up winning due to those same type of tactics, which I guess is typical for their type of a faction. They're not supposed to be a squeaky clean babyface faction winning clean. It would make sense for them to cheat to win. But the biggest thing that I took away from this is that they're not over. They're not over the way the WWE wants them to be or thinks that they are. And maybe they should have put the straps on Andrade and Rey Fenix, who absolutely killed it in this match. All of the guys killed it in this match. It was a good match. I just think it should have been booked later in the night. Definitely could have switched places with the match before Cena and Cody Rhodes. I know it's hard to do that because there's momentum and you don't want to blow up the crowd on a TLC match before the main event. I get all of that. But you have to think about all of the things, all of the nuances to all of the teams in that match. And by having the Wyatts come out during the day, it was just a fucking crime. It just felt like a crime was being committed. I didn't like that about it at all. So that's another key complaint. That brings our complaint total up to 3. Because as good as the TLC match was, there was just a few things about it. The time it was booked, and the winners. And then I love the Wyatts. It's not about that. It's just not working. Much like some of the other stuff here. We'll see where the tag team division goes from there. The rest of the show for night 2 was very satisfying. My favorite match of the night, probably not what you think I'm going to say, but my favorite match of the night is actually a tie between the triple threat that opened the show, Naomi, Rhea, and Io, who absolutely killed it. The girls have been putting in the work. Naomi's title run right now is probably the greatest run she's ever going to have in her life. She's fantastic. And while we're on that, let me just throw in one other little asterisk of a complaint. When you're there live and you're unable to really know what's going on, I had no idea that the guitar player that was shredding the hell out of Naomi's theme song, guy was fucking awesome. I thought it was like maybe the guitar player for Living Color or a member of some band that maybe Naomi likes or something, but I didn't see anything anywhere that told me who this guy was. All I knew is Naomi was being played to the crowd by some guy that was killing it on the guitar. Turns out that was her dad. That's fucking amazing. That's such a cool moment for them. And me, as a dad, being there with his daughter, sharing this moment, I would have liked to have known that in that moment, but you don't know. You don't really know when you're there live a lot of the little things that are going on. And your view is obstructed by the big screen in the middle over the ring, and especially at an arena show where the structure is a lot more aggressive and there's a lot more obstruction in your views. You can see if you follow me on Instagram, I posted all my pictures and videos and stuff over there at Nick_Nightmare on Instagram. If you're interested, go check it out. You can see everything I put up for this weekend from SummerSlam. But back to the match. Sorry about that little tangent, but triple threat match, fantastic. I can't say anything bad about it. Io Sky, one of the top 5 women's wrestlers on the roster right now. Rhea Ripley, after this, still can't beat Io Sky, right? She's got that hanging over her head. And now she can't get her title back from Naomi. I don't want to see her thrust back into the title picture. I don't. Naomi is now set for a one-on-one against my current favorite female on the roster, La Primera, Stephanie Vaquero. And I would like to see her win, but I feel like Naomi's just getting started. She's on a roll, and maybe it's not time to take it from her yet. But I just want Rhea away from the belts. Keep her away from the belts. Keep her in the main scene. Keep her on top. You know, mommy's on top. Let her be on top of everybody else. Just don't let her figuratively be on top as a champion. Let's take a little bit of a Rhea break right now. Let's start building up some of your other girls. What's the point of pulling up Julia and pulling up Stephanie and pulling up all these girls if you're just going to keep going back to Becky and Rhea for everything? I digress. But I did really love that match. The other match I really, really enjoyed was the Eddie Guerrero tribute match, which I didn't know it was going to be an Eddie Guerrero tribute match, but it ended up being exactly that. From the fact that AJ Styles came out dressed as Eddie Guerrero, to the fact that he came out in a lowrider with a person who I can only assume was supposed to be an impersonator for little Dominic Mysterio, with his short, weird, bleach blonde crew cut do, only he was a full-grown man and he wasn't a child, and they were echoing back to Ray and Eddie's SummerSlam match from years ago. AJ's outfit being Eddie's outfit, great touch. And you would think it would have ended there, right? Especially since Dom's the Eddie Guerrero look-alike simulator guy, right? But they took it a step further, and they implemented a lot of Eddie Guerrero type spots into this match, including the slipping the boot off of your foot when in a submission, which is something they ripped right out of Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero. Great stuff. And then always doing the chair spot where Eddie would throw the chair to his opponent and then hit the mat as if he was hit with the chair, making the ref believe the guy used the chair. It was masterful stuff. But then AJ turned it around and did like a double thing, and then AJ dropped with the chair on his head, and it was just... And then for the match to, of course, end with Dominic Mysterio winning with the 5-star frog splash. The Eddie Guerrero tribute was beautiful. I know that's not what it's officially called, but that's what I'm calling it. SummerSlam 2025, the Eddie Guerrero tribute match. Dominic Mysterio defeats AJ Styles, which is a big thing for him to say, for the Intercontinental Championship, retaining that belt, staying the champion. Dominic Mysterio, much like Naomi, one of the people I was getting really annoyed with, that is now on a career run, doing some of the best work I've seen these guys do. Props to Dominic. He's really come a long way. I'd rather watch a Dominic Mysterio match than a Logan Paul match any day of the week. Keep Logan Paul off my TV. I don't care how much credit the guys in the back want to give him. He's not a wrestler. Dominic Mysterio was born to do this. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. And of course, the main event street fight. Absolutely great. I feel like it took a little long to get going. I feel like it didn't really feel like a street fight. In fact, within the first half of the match, I would say, I was starting to feel like, well, maybe they're not really going to go full street fight with it, because a lot of the match was contained within the ring, and it was just a lot of wrestling and a lot of fighting. But then they spilled out to the outside. Things started to get crazy. Cody took the bottom rope off, which at first I'm like, what the hell is he doing? But then I realized he was going to use it to try to strangle John Cena. And then I'm like, man, is Cody going to go heel? Are they really doing this? Because he definitely was showing tendencies. But that's something that you would have to do in a street fight. One of the little nuances, I don't know if any of you guys caught, was I was watching the big screen, so I would assume that this was the angle that you guys had at home, was the face-to-face right before the match. When John Cena, you could see, if you try to read his lips, you could see that there's respect between these two guys. And he's like, all right, are you ready? Let's see what you got. And he was going to take Cody to the limit. And then another thing that kind of got me at the end is at the end when the match was over and Cena had won and they met again in the ring and they shook hands and embraced, I see Cody apologizing. You could literally look and see him say, I'm so sorry. And he's not sorry because he beat John Cena for the WWE Championship. He apologized for this whole run. The WWE, most specifically The Rock and his camp, pretty much ruined half of John Cena's farewell tour. Half of this country got to see a version of John Cena that was not really John Cena. They didn't get to say goodbye properly, and it was all because they had this idea. And it was a great idea, but the execution was failed miserably, and then everybody, as John said, on his team bailed from the story altogether, and then it became the story that it should have been all along. And I feel bad for all of the places that Cena went on the first half of this tour to say goodbye, where he had to berate them and talk shit about them, where you could see in the guy's face, even tonight in defeat after the match, before Brock's music hit, he was just so grateful of all the chants, and even the fans were giving it back to him, the thank you Cena chants. Like, we all know the deal, right? Whether you love him or you hate him. You know, I hate the fact that he's considered the greatest of all time, because I don't believe that fully, but I've been around for too long. I've seen too many truly great wrestlers to believe that John Cena is the greatest to ever do it. He is definitely one of the greatest showmen ever, right up there with Hulk Hogan. You don't stay on top for almost 30 years if you're not good at what you do, right? He wasn't the best at the wrestling part, but everything else, he definitely excelled. And you got to give it up to John Cena. But the Brock Lesnar music hit, and a chill went up my spine, and the goosebumps started to hit, and I just started screaming. Just a visceral scream, and I just kept saying, what? What? And my daughter is losing her mind next to me, and at first I'm like, what the hell is he doing here? And I thought maybe he was going to go after Cody, but then I realized that Cody was pretty much gone at this point. Again, hard to see everything going on. I know Cena was in the middle of the ring, but I couldn't see whether Cody made it out of there or not. And I'm like, we're not going to do Cody and Brock again. But then I see Cena's face. And then I remember Cena being one of Brock's greatest rivals, and it's like, man, are they gonna end this thing with Brock versus Cena? That is interesting. It is. It's compelling, yes, but I would rather see, if Brock's going to come back, I'd rather see him fight some of the regular guys, right? If Brock's going to come back to put somebody over, it shouldn't be John Cena. John Cena is the most over person in the world right now when it comes to professional wrestling. If he's going to come back, he should be putting over a guy like a Rusev, or maybe an Aleister Black, or a Damian Priest, or a Gunther. Imagine Brock Lesnar versus Gunther. That's heel versus heel. It's weird. You'd have to turn Brock babyface, I guess. But everybody would be rooting for Gunther anyway, I would think, because wrestling fans are weird nowadays. And I feel like they just don't want to go with the flow. I don't know. But what else are you going to do with the Brock Lesnar outside of a John Cena storyline? It could get more interesting. You could put over the new guys, but how many times are you going to beat Brock, right? One of the more concerning things about the whole thing is, yes, they made SummerSlam great, right? By night one, they had the cash in that saved everything. And night two was a better card, still had a few mistakes, but was really put over the edge by the return of Brock Lesnar. Apparently, Brock Lesnar is going to be around, and he's going to do a John Cena, right? He's going to be around for like the next year, and then possibly have his very last match at SummerSlam next year. Great, I get it. But what do they do after that? Who's left? Who's left that the WWE can go to pull this card for future events? Think about that for a second. Everybody's done, right? We did Bill Goldberg this year even. Goldberg's had 3 farewell tours already. Can't do him again. You got Brock Lesnar, John Cena maybe, but I have a feeling, he's really, really done. I don't feel like he's a guy that would go back on his word so much. I don't think John will come back for another run. Maybe a match in a year or two, maybe, but I doubt it. I doubt it. And therein lies the overall problem with the WWE. Over the last 10 to 15 years, you have not made any stars that have that generational kind of impact. So that, like, just say, for example, I mean, we're just hypothetically speaking here, but let's say, for example, 3 years from now, SummerSlam's fading. The current card's not doing it. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Roman? I guess that's it. Right? Who else can you? The Undertaker can't come back. You can't call a Steve Austin. You can't call a Kurt Angle. You can't bring back a Rock. You can't bring back anybody that's on that type of astronomical superstar-like level. You even burned through all the females. You had Trish Stratus make her come back already. Nobody else really can. You got the Bellas back, and nobody really cares because they were never really on the level of a Trish Stratus. So what do? What legends are left that can come back and make an impact the way Brock Lesnar made his impact last night? And I think that is a real big way to shine a light on the problem with how WWE is booking their talents lately. Nobody feels big like that. Nobody feels special. Nobody. Only the guys that were already there. Guys like Randy. Guys like Punk. A guy like Jericho. A guy like Edge. That whole generation is not going to be able to come back and do this anymore. And the generation that came up after that, outside of like a John Cena or a Randy Orton, who's still currently doing it, like, who is there? Who is there? Nobody. And whose fault is that? All of them. All of them. Because why isn't a guy like Sheamus on that level? He's been around 15 years, maybe more. Guys like Rusev should be megastars. They should have already been there years ago. But they don't have anybody else on the level of a Cody Rhodes, who, outside of maybe LA Knight, could rival Cody Rhodes as the number one good guy in that company. Who could possibly be a better heel than Brock Lesnar or Seth Rollins? Guys like Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, they're just getting started. 5-10 years from now, when they're the standard, when they are running the show, what, we gotta wait for an old man Seth Rollins to come back at a SummerSlam? Like, I don't know what they're gonna do to right the ship. Everything feels great right now, but think about that as we go along. If not for Brock Lesnar, where would we be at? If not for Seth Rollins cashing in that Money in the Bank, what would you really have felt about SummerSlam overall? Because I think it's not as great as everybody's making it out to be. You only feel like that, how you feel about something within like those last like 10. The show ended on such a high note that you feel like you had, oh my God, it was such a great show. And it was a good show. It wasn't a great show. It was a good show with a great ending. And the first night, not so much. I mean, it was probably a great ending if you're a Seth Rollins fan for night one. Guys like me and fans like my daughter and most of the people at MetLife Stadium on Saturday night did not leave happy. Sunday night, we all left ecstatic. But that does not negate the fact that the show had some very glaring errors, and I can never let that go. That's why we are here, to bring the hammer down on the WWE one show at a time. That's my thoughts on SummerSlam Night 1. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed our content. And if you missed our review of night number 1, it will be linked in the description down below and around somewhere here. Either in that little card thing that's over here or in one of these 2 little boxes right here. I'm Nick Nightmare. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.